Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I just am so grateful for all you guys watching. We hit 500 subs this past week. I challenged you all that were watching the power rankings video to hit that subscribe button. We needed 25 to hit 500. And wow, I am just blown away by the amount of subs we got. We gotten close to 50 subs since that last video. So you guys asked for it, not specifically this video, but this is kind of a staple on the channel every year. Early in the season, I do a prediction. Around August, late August, early September, I do a prediction. And at the beginning of the playoffs, I do a prediction of who I think is going to make the playoffs and then who's going to win it all. So as tradition, I always start on the American League. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to go over who I think is going to finish where. It's going to be a shock in some spots. It's going to be a big controversy. It's more just me feeling where I think teams are going based on their trends lately. Maybe a little bit of gut and maybe a little bit of nonsense, but I'm excited to see what you guys think for predictions. Yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. But guys, before I do, if you like seeing extra content, I know I got a shout out asking for maybe all-star ballot voting. Maybe I'll do a video about that, but keep the subs coming, keep the likes coming. Keep the comments coming. I love the discussion, and it's really what motivates me, guys, to do it. So keep it coming, and it'll keep me motivated to do videos. So we're going to kick things off here. There's a couple things for the American League that I think are going to be somewhat set in stone. I can't see myself taking these guys out of the number one seed in the American League, so I expect them to finish number one. And in case you don't know how the playoff format works, number 1 and 2, whoever has the best record and wins their division will get a first round bye. The third division leader will be automatically number 3. Doesn't matter about their record in this case, and probably when we talk about the National League, in that case too, that team's probably gonna have the 6th worst record, but they're gonna be the 3rd seed, so they'll play the 6th seed, and the rest are just the wildcard teams ranked in order. So looking at number 2 here, I think it really comes down to 2 different teams. I expect them both to make the playoffs. I think you all know who we're talking about here, but you might be shocked with who I have as number 2, and that is going to be the Houston Astros. So Houston, as we know, won it all last year, had a little bit of a slow start. Some of their stars, of course, being injured, not necessarily picking up the wins. Their division might be a little bit harder than we expected. I do expect the American League West to take the number 2 seed here. The Central, no chance. And we're just going to jump right into the Central here because they're going to be number 3 seed. And for me, it's going to be the Twins. I expected them to be a lot stronger in this spot. A little bit more worried about them holding on. I think there's only one real challenger, in my opinion, that I did give some consideration to, but I thought you guys might think it's too far of a stretch, and I ended up settling because I do think the Twins are the better team. But I do think the White Sox, they're a shot. So I did decide to put them under the close but no situation. But I don't think they're a super long shot. And maybe when we do the video again at the end of August, we'll be talking about the White Sox. Maybe that'll be my pick at that point. Who knows? But number 3, I do expect the Twins to finally, let's get on the move on here. They blew their chance, in my opinion, to really walk away with this division. Now there is threat, but I still think they'll be number 3. That brings us to the number 4 seed, which is also the best wildcard team. I think they are potentially going to have the 2nd best record in all of the American League. And this is the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles have just continued to win. I think we can count on one hand how many series they even came close to losing this year. And they're being super competitive in the American League. The only issue with this, and I don't think it's a far outcry, the only issue with this is they do have to catch up to Tampa Bay. I think they're about 4.5 games back right now. Could happen. They're going to play each other a bunch. Tampa Bay's kind of come back down to earth, so really, you could see these two possibly switch. I think one of these 2 teams is going to be number 1, and Baltimore is looking super strong, and they're going to head into this best of 3 looking good. That brings us to the number 5 seed, which is kind of the same situation. We got the Texas Rangers. Same situation. I think you could possibly go either way with them in Houston. I'm leaning Houston right now. Texas is holding on to it right now. They do look a lot better right now, but we got to remember this is a marathon. Houston's done it a lot. They've been in it a lot, so I'm giving that edge to them. But Texas, that's going to cement them into number 5. And so this brings us down to the last seed. And in the American League, this is just a battle. This whole playoff race is going to be an absolute battle. And number 6, it was tough to say, but I did end up coming to a decision, and that is the New York Yankees. So I think the Yankees are going to be the ones to grab this last spot. I don't think they're going to be able to go any higher than that. I do expect the other 5 spots to kind of be between those 5 teams. Number 3, we already talked about, could be switched. But number 6, I think, is the only one that's really up for grabs, and there's 3 teams I consider having a shot. Yankees, I edge out having the win. The next closest I kind of ranked up was the LA Angels. The thing that kept me having them away from it is their record against above 500 teams has been pretty bad this season. I think they're around 300 in terms of win percentage when they're playing winning teams. That's not going to get it. You're not going to get there in the American League. They're right there in the hunt right now. But based off that, makes me think that they've been beaten up on a lot of the weaker teams. As much as I'd love to see Otani, Trout, and all them in the playoffs, I do think they are going to miss. And another team I do have in miss that's might be a shock at the beginning of the season, definitely would have been a shock, is the Toronto Blue Jays. Just can't get behind this team. Right now, they have the second best win percentage when they're playing teams outside of their division in MLB. But when you're playing inside your division, and that's what's going to matter when it comes to the American League East specifically, they have a record that's in line with Oakland A's, with the Royals, and with those guys. So you're not winning in your division. You're just going to be on the outside looking in. And right now, that's how I picture Toronto. So this is how I see the playoffs as of right now shaping up. First round, wildcard rounds, we've got best of 3. We're going to have the Orioles versus the Rangers. And that is just going to be a surreal series. It's tough. It sucks that one of these teams is going to have to go home in a best of 3. And right now, in that situation, I am actually going to give the edge to the Rangers. I think when it comes to a long series, the Rangers have a little bit of a disadvantage maybe against the Orioles in terms of depth of pitching. I think that's where the big concern would come. But I think in a head-to-head matchup, it's super close. And right now, the bats of the Rangers have just been lights out. I know this is not going to go over well, but that's how I would see it if those 2 teams matched up right now in a best of 3. Next up, we're going to have the Yankees and the Twins. And I think no matter what team gets in through the Central, they're in for a world of hurt. They might get past a best of 3, but I have to give the edge to the Yankees. And because of that, I'm going to have to pick them in this situation. So when we get to the next round, this would be a best of 5. No matter what happens, no matter who wins the 4 or 5 seed, they'll play the number 1. And if it's Texas versus Tampa Bay in a best of 5, we're going to have Texas. I'm going to think they're going to go to game 3 against Baltimore at least. And they're going to be a little tired. So that's going to give Tampa an edge. They're going to have some rest, and they're going to be firing on all cylinders. So I would predict Tampa Bay to get out of this one probably in like 4, if that were the case right now. Going up to next, same kind of story. I kind of expect the Yankees to have to use their top guns. Garrett Cole, of course, going to be pitching in that Twins series. If they go 3, that's going to hurt. I maybe expect them to go 2. It's going to give Houston a little bit of an edge. These 2 teams have been battling over and over and over again. So that's just super exciting. In this case, I would have to pick Houston to win again. Just keeps having their number. I just figure. And I think it'd go to 5. I think it'd be a very intense series. Those 2 teams back and forth all the time. And we see a very familiar situation again. We see all 3 of these teams basically been scrapping each other for 5+ years, it feels like at this point. And then get to a best of 7, Tampa versus Houston. I just think, my gut telling me right now, I am leaning towards Houston walking out. We're gonna say in 6. I don't know. Like we're in June right now. This is kind of looking far ahead. What I'm seeing right now, kind of a little bit of what I've been used to seeing over the past couple of years, using my gut, etc., etc. But there you have it. That's what I have for the American League. Now let's jump in to the National League. All right, and welcome back. Just like magic, we are back. National League, same kind of story. I'm not going to go into how the playoffs work too much right now. But number one, I think, is pretty much sewn up. I don't think there's anyone really making a threat at it. Not a whole lot of discussion here. I think they're the best team pretty much by far so far all season long. And it makes sense on paper. They're also probably the best team with terms of rotation and batting order. Atlanta up there. So the number two is probably where a lot of people are going to have someone different. Probably not too surprised if you've watched this channel long enough, but I do have the Dodgers in there. I know right now they're not holding that spot, but I kind of expect it to even out long term. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. At least I've been getting a lot of hate in the National League West. Pretty much the history of this channel. I always seem to be getting the teams wrong, maybe. But I do think the Dodgers, while a little bit behind, haven't looked great. The pitching doesn't look super good all the time. I do expect them to make major moves at the trade deadline. And that's probably going to be the difference in that division, as well as getting that second wild card spot. So that leads us to number three. This one is interesting because same story as the American League. The Central is just wild. And this, I'm going to go a little bit off the radar here. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being a little bit bandwagony right now, and a lot of people are going to disagree. But we have the Cincinnati Reds. Only a couple games back right now. We have a struggling team that's in first, who's basically around 500, and I have it as the Pirates. And believe it or not, I have them missing the playoffs. So we have that. I expect the Reds, they're on a, 5-game winning streak right now. I just like their talent. Their young talent has just been super steady, and I do think the pitching is a little bit better than the Pirates. I do expect that to make a big difference. And I'd rather be hot now and heading into the summer and getting a little bit of momentum now than the Pirates, who had that 9-game winning streak earlier in April, got all that momentum, then had a little bit of a struggle. Now they're about 500. I would rather be on the momentum now. I do think the Reds have that momentum, and I expect them to probably ride it to a division lead here. And you're going to see I'm not even going to include the Milwaukee Brewers in this, which is shocking if you watch the power rankings because I have them top 12. But something in my gut tells me something's not right there. I haven't quite seen it in the games, and they're getting by. But something in my gut tells me they're not even going to be close soon by the end of the season. So that's why I'm leaving them off. It's a little Easter egg for those watching deeply through. So that would bring us to the 4 seed, which probably would be the third best record in the National League overall. I have the Philadelphia Phillies. Right now, I think they're sitting on the outside looking in. They've had a really rough start. I've liked what I've seen in certain spots. I do have a lot of concern with the bullpen, but as well as with the Dodgers I was talking about, I do expect them to make some moves to bring in some extra talent to this team to help boost them. And with this National League pretty weak in there, I think only a couple ads like that are going to make a world of a difference for a team that's already world championship level team. You saw it last year, defending National League champions. So they're going to be right there in it. And I expect them to be the third best record when all said and done at the end of the season. That brings us up to the next best record in the National League. I have the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, at the beginning of the season, I did not think this was going to happen. Probably did a video like this at the beginning, wouldn't even be there, wouldn't even be in close, but they've shocked me in terms of the depth of their batting. And the pitching is still questionable in depth. Sure, they have Gallen, they have Kelly. Those guys have been dominant, but when they get to longer series, and maybe we'll talk about that in a second, a little bit of concern. I do have the number 6 seed coming up. I expect them to kind of pull it together. I'm starting to believe that they're not pulling it together as much as I thought they would earlier in the season, starting to give them a little bit of credit as not being as good as I thought. But I still think they're good enough to make it into the playoffs. And that has another team that I gave some serious thought to, was the San Francisco Giants. So out of these two teams, I thought, they're going to be close. Giants would probably be the closest wildcard team in terms of record. I think Pittsburgh is going to be the closest in terms of they have a shot at Cincinnati. That brings us to the best of 3, and this is where it gets really interesting. I think if these two teams matched up in a best of 3, we actually just saw that this week, surprisingly enough. I believe Philly took 2 of 3. I know they won today 5-4, so that was super close. But these two teams match up very well in terms of a 3-game series. They both have top-heavy, strong pitchers at the top of their rotation. If it's a best of 5, I'm giving Philly a bigger edge because there's a little bit more depth there. In the bats, same story, but in a best of 3, Arizona has the bats that with the speed and the power and stuff like that to really do an upset. So honestly, right now, if these two teams met in a best of 3, I would actually choose Arizona because these two teams met, and I don't think Zach Gallen went this week, and that's a big difference. I would almost suspect Zach Gallen should bring a win in a 1-0 series lead, but of course he'd be going up against Wheeler, so I'm going to lean Diamondbacks to win that series. Maybe it's in my gut. I'm starting to believe a little bit more like you fans out there that watch the power rankings. Brings us to number 3, Cincinnati versus San Diego. And this one, in my opinion, could go either way. Going to put a little bit of an edge to the guys, the veterans, all those guys that have been here, done that before. And I would just kind of give it to San Diego. Who knows? Like, let's be honest, this whole thing's probably going to miss. Never in the history of this channel have I done a prediction this early and been right. Let alone predicting the playoffs at the beginning of the playoffs and being right. It's almost impossible. But it's fun to dream, it's fun to try, and it's fun to get your guys' picks. So if you guys have picks, make sure you put them in the comments below. Next up, we go to the best of 5. And at this point, we're going to have Arizona, who's probably played 3 against a fully rested Atlanta team. They're going to be in a lot of trouble. We're not going to see Zach Gallen again until maybe game 3. I don't know how they're going to squeeze by. So I think Atlanta's got a pretty good path to the championship. Really, if this was the other way around and Philly's going on, that's probably worst nightmare for Atlanta. Atlanta actually would want Arizona, I think, in this situation for that exact reason. They're very top heavy. Number 2, we got LA versus San Diego, and these two teams have just matched up so many times over the past years. It could go either way. I wouldn't know who to pick, honestly. I'll say this now, I didn't really plan out how I was going to pick. I was just going to go with my gut at the time of the video, so I got to keep doing that. And I do have the Dodgers. Moving on, in that situation, going to go probably best of 5. Those two teams go either way. It could be best of 5, or it is a best of 5. It could go 5, or it could go 3. Who knows? Leads us to the championship, and we've seen these two teams match up the past few years as well. But I am going to go with the same situation. I just think Atlanta is by far the best team in the National League. Freddie Freeman's having a monster season. Of course, he wouldn't want to do this and watch his team go. But yeah, that leads us to the World Series, where right now I will have Atlanta versus Houston. And at this point in time, I am going to circle Atlanta, and I'm going to predict them to take Houston on. And there you have it. They're going to take Houston on in 6. You're hearing it here first. And guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support that we've been getting on this channel over the past few weeks. It's awesome. Getting ready to go to the World Series of Poker myself. I'll be down there for about 10 days at the end of June, early July. And for the first time when I go to the World Series, normally I take a couple weeks off from the channel, but due to you guys bringing all the motivation, I am going to be bringing my cards with me. Maybe I'll do a live stream. Maybe I'll do something, but the power rankings are going to keep going. I'm going to keep posting videos. I'm going to keep throwing out my stupid opinions that you guys seem to like for whatever reason. And yeah, we're just going to keep growing this channel. I'm hoping this video hits somewhat and you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what other kind of content you want to see, what other videos, and we'll see you guys for that next video. Peace out.